Well, Cavs fans, night game, afternoon game, it really at this point just doesn't matter. Cavs just keep on winning with their 116 point with their win over the Charlotte Hornets, 116-102. Story of the night, or day, I should say, clearly was Evan Mobley, who had a career game. Spencer Davies, Tommy Wild, we're about to break it all down right now. So, like I said, Spencer, the clear biggest story from today is Evan Mobley. He finished the night with, or day. I keep saying day, man. I mean night. It's a day game. Day game. Evan Mobley finished with 41 points. He hit 6 threes. He grabbed 10 boards, 2 assists. I mean, just an incredible overall performance from him. What was like the biggest thing? Obviously, I know the outside shooting, but outside of that, man, like what was some of the biggest things that you saw from him tonight?
It was just all about him this evening, or sorry, this afternoon.
I
We
know.
just keep doing
It's
that.
such a habit.
It
It's such a
is
habit.
night. It is nighttime. But no, this afternoon over in Charlotte, man, he was just taking over and just giving the freedom really to let it fly from deep. And you kind of saw it in that Denver game how he
Mm-hmm.
had just that confidence in his shot, and he was stepping into it, and he was in his spots on the catch shoots, but in this one, it was just a little bit of everything. It wasn't just the threes. I mean, he hit a career high 5 in one quarter and dropped 23 in the first in Charlotte, but it was just everything that came with it. So once teams start to close out on Evan Mobley, this offense is going to become so much more dynamic than you'd ever think possible. You have Donovan Mitchell that's going to be able to have room to operate in the middle of the floor. Darius Garland's going to be able to turn the corner and get Jared Allen involved, as we saw too, with JA using his left
Yep.
hand. Just so
Mm-hmm.
many different possibilities just from the fact that defenses have to react to Evan on the outside now. And lo and behold, I mean, Evan's going to be out there shooting those threes, and all these other stars are going to have the opportunity to do their thing. And so many multi-tooled players offensively. This is just going to completely take the Cavs half court to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like ever since Mobley was drafted, the biggest question has been like, can he develop this outside shot? Will he eventually be able to be some sort of 3-point shooter? And I don't think that the conversation is, and I know Kenny had talked about this after the Nuggets game, like they don't want him taking 10 threes a night, right? Like that's not the goal for Evan Mobley. But what you just said is obviously the goal for him. He needs to be a threat and the on the around the arc so that teams have to close out on him because like you said, it's just going to open up so much more. But I mean, hey, maybe after these 2 games, maybe they do want him taking 10 threes. Like the shot looks real. It doesn't look forced. Like I feel like sometimes in the past, I feel like he maybe was forcing some shots up the past few seasons because there's been maybe some pressure on him to develop this shot. But this year has looked so much different. The threes he's taking are in rhythm. They're within the offense. And I think that's just credit to Kenny Atkinson. But I also think that, like you said, too, the confidence is something that we can't see in the box score, right? That's not something that's going to show up, but it's real with him. The shot looks better. The shot looks smoother. He looks more confident. And, it's just going to open up everything for everybody else. When we talk about Evan Mobley being this guy that can raise a ceiling, it may not just be because what he's doing, but the threat that he represents when he's on the floor.
And Kenny just talks about how it's just kind of the next step, like you just mentioned, for them, even thinking playoff time. He mentioned the Mitchell Robinsons of the world, the Kristaps Porzingis, these awesome ring protectors
Mm-hmm.
that can give you a little bit of trouble when you drive it. So you're going to be able to have to shoot. But on the
Right?
other hand, I talk about everything that it helps his teammates. I think it helps Evan even more because if guys are closing out harder, if they're reacting a little bit quicker and more aggressively, we've seen how dominant Evan's been putting the ball on the floor this year. Using
Mm-hmm.
his left hand in particular, I think he's just been such a force. He's had plenty of dribble moves to get to the basket. He's using that lower shoulder to create space for himself, and he's finishing with both hands. He's been ambidextrous. He's just kind of finding ways to attack the rim, getting to the free throw line more this
Yeah.
year, and it helps himself. It helps his team, and it's just the perfect storm for this Cavs team. And you know that Kenny Atkinson's just frothing at the mouth for the first time he sees one of those opposing bigs go out to try and contest, because then no rim protection behind them, and then you got your drivers, and you're in business, and you have the ball moving as quickly as it has been for these Cavs, and just everyone touching it. That just makes for the perfect kind of synergy on the floor for everybody, really.
Right. Yeah, and I think that the free throw thing is interesting that you bring that up, because it was something that Kenny brought up post game too, kind of saying how he's been getting. It seems that he's getting to the line more, but not only is he getting to the line more, but he's making those free throws. And he's talked in the past about how this free throw maybe percentage or 3-point free throw shot can maybe translate to 3-point shooting to some degree. And I just looked it up here, and so far this season, Evan Mobley, he's attempting just about 4 free throws a game, which is a career high for him. He's also shooting his free throws at a 79% clip, which is a career high for him. So I think that when we look at this 3-point shot being better, it's not just the 3-point shot, it's his overall shooting mechanics, shooting form. Something is different with him. Something is changed, whether that be the confidence factor, whether that be a mechanical change. Hasn't looked too much different, maybe a little bit quicker than it has in the past. But when we're looking at that free throw percentage and the fact he's getting to the line more, he's making more free throws, it shouldn't be that big of a surprise that, yeah, now he's starting to hit some of these 3-point shots.
When you get more reps, you get the confidence from your teammates to shoot it. They're begging him, get to the corners, just like the guards are getting to the corners. Get to your spots, and from there, make a play. He's so good being face up towards the basket that he can read the game pretty well. We know how good of a passer he is. We know that he's been used in these inverted pick and rolls with the guard setting the screens, and he's been the ball handler. And now you just add this part to his game, and now you have a pick and pop threat. Whether you're going to be taking mid rangers or if you're going to stretch it out to the 3 line, and that opens things up for Jarrett. And Jarrett, can pound guys in the interior, and just it's just there's so many different ways this Cavs team can hurt you offensively, and this is kind of the cherry on top at the moment, because Donovan has been excellent on the pull-ups and the catch shoots. Darius Garland, as we know, has been facilitating like crazy, and he's been very confident from shooting behind the arc, whether it's on catch shoots or pull-ups or transition threes. This is just an entire differently – the last 2 games has really been eye-opening, I think.
For sure.
And it's going to be huge for them and Evan to kind of take that next leap of being the offensive player and just the overall player that this team has invested in him to be. And then you look at the defensive end, this guy was swatting everything left and right too. Blocks, poor Taj Gibson trying to get a nice little layup in, and Evan swats it away with the right. He had a couple of blocks with the left hand. And you want to talk about non-3-point shooting. I mean, Evan was all over the glass. He had 10 boards. One of them was a putback with his left hand. I keep trying to tell people that Evan is a left-handed player. I know he's ambidextrous and he's strong, right? But if you watch him when he goes left, and I don't understand why teams haven't picked up on this yet, he is so smart and so cunning in the way that he gets to the rim, and he just uses those long strides. He had an amazing drive. I think it was against Peyton Watson on the Nuggets, and he just slammed it home after it looked like Stretch Armstrong was going to the rim. So many different aspects and elements to his game that are so yet to be developed, and you just see the flashes. And I mean, you see 23 field goal attempts today in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And maybe that's also part of the game plan, because the Hornets were undermanned. No LaMelo, no Moussa Diabate, obviously no Miles Bridges. So maybe that was an opportunity for them to say, okay, make this your game. Show us what you can do. And he ran with it for sure.
Yeah, and you kind of brought up the blocks there too. There's a stat that NBA history tweeted out. So Evan Mobley joins Kevin Durant as the only player in NBA history under 25 years old to record have 40 or more points, 10 or more rebounds, 3 or more blocks, and hit 5 or more 3-pointers in a game. And whenever you're comparing yourself to a young Kevin Durant and you match his box score on something, I think you can say it's a pretty good game for sure.
Good stat drop there, buddy.
Hey, I saw that pop up on my feed, and I was like, yeah, got to include that one in there somehow, some way, because that's a pretty cool stat. Might be nitpicking a little bit with pulling some of the stats up, but hey, still, who cares? Him and Evan Mobley and Kevin Durant are the 2 players in NBA history that's ever done that. So that's pretty cool. Just kind of one more quick thought on my end from the Evan Mobley 3-point shooting. Something that Kenny's kind of talked about even a couple times, especially in his past 2 post-game pressers, is that they're encouraging him to take bad 3-pointers, which I think just the thought of that is kind of funny. It's like, no, take a bad one. Like, but I think that goes into the confidence that not only the team has in him and his shot, but trying to help him be more confident in that shot too. Sometimes you just got to take them. Sometimes you just got to take a risk, whether it's a bad shot. You never know if it's going to go in, especially when you're, up 10 or 12 points. That certainly helps, you have the confidence to do that. But I just think that kind of mindset that this kind of coaching staff and the players are trying to instill in Mobley is pretty interesting. Like, it's okay to take what we think is maybe a bad shot every once in a while, because you never know what's going to happen. And if you start making these, like we're starting to see, the defenses are going to have some trouble trying to choose who they're going to guard, whether it's going to be on a perimeter, whether it's going to be down low. And Cavs are going to take off once this becomes maybe a little bit more consistent.
It loosens the grips a little bit
Yes.
defensively. That's the thing. Like, it's just like, I got to pay attention to this guy. I got to kind of play the half game. I'm going to be in between. I can't just stick to one guy and say, go ahead and hurt us. That's going to be, I think, the biggest change when it comes to the Cavs if Evan continues to shoot like this. And I know it's a 2-game sample size where we've seen this, but you got to imagine it's going to be in the game plan. I'm intrigued to see what happens in Miami tomorrow night. As a result of that, because we know that Miami likes to really bog things down. And is Evan still going to be doing this in the half court, or are they going to be more apt to the two guards trying to make things happen? But it's funny you mentioned the bad threes thing. He took one off the dribble against Denver. It was at the end of the shot clock, but Kenny was not too happy with that shot, but he also encouraged it at the same time. I asked Evan about that. I was like, was that the right shot at the right time? He's like, yeah, this is an opportunity to kind of expand a little bit. And also the fact that he's going to be able to get more opportunities, maybe not so many that are drawn up for Evan, but just in the flow of the game. And again, going back to that pick and pop where, are you going to stay on the driver? Are you going to stay on the ball handler? Or are you going to leak out towards Evan? And then you got to make decisions from there. And that's not a fun game to play if you're a defender. So that, and then you look at pick and roll situations, whether he's in the inverted or if he's in a regular pick and roll, are they going to go under on the screen? If they go under the screen, let it fly. And, last 2 games, just superb. Let's see, 3 + 6, that's 9 of 13 on his last 3-point attempts. And that is in 2 games. And wow, that's some kind of weapon to have if you have a 7-footer doing that. And I don't know who's blocking that shot, by the way. It's at the apex. That is not going to be blocked. I mean, if Wemby's on him, like KP in Boston, he can get to it. AD, I'm sure, is also, but just a very few amount of people can actually block or realistically contest that shot, because even if you close out on him, you're still 4 or 5 inches, shorter. So that's another part of this that I think no one's really mentioning with Evan, is just at the apex of where he's shooting at and at the release point. Not easy to defend at all.
Yeah, I think that when you mentioned the pick and pop stuff, like, this team is already a very good pick and roll team. They're a very good team with the cutting and the slashing to the rim. But if all of a sudden you start adding pick and pop stuff like the Milwaukee Bucks did with, Brooke Lopez during their 2021 run, their finals run, their championship, and we've seen from them, like, that's just going to be a whole nother, part of this offense. You can just fly in there depending on what defenses are throwing at you. Like, this Cavs team, as the season goes on, they're just figuring out new ways to make it so tough on defenses. And that's, that adaptability, I think that we can start to say that maybe is definitely been an impressive part of the season. Like, yeah, like, they're just going to keep adapting, keep changing, and keep adding these new things in here. And it's just going to be too much for defenses. And it's amazing when you have so many different guys who have so many different unique skill sets, and they're just keep getting better, like we're seeing with Mobley right now.
Stylistically, it's amazing how they can just kind of be a chameleon, whether that's, changing their strategies defensively like we saw in Denver. They were a lot different schematically against Denver than they have been in the past, playing against teams that are, more like, 5 out. Like, they were making Jokic be a scorer, like, unlike when they were playing past teams and they were doing, like, a ton of switching. Like, they have so many options defensively, and then offensively. Yeah, we could play the half-court game, but we're the best in transition. We're also the best at, one pass, one shot, because the shot quality is good. And teams still are not, quite closing out as aggressively as they should be, because they Cavs haven't really had that reputation in the past of being such a good shooting team, but now you're shooting at a 41% clip, and you're getting you're making about 16 a game right now. Teams are going to start noticing that, and then the paint is just going to be wide open. And Kenny wants them to be a paint team because you touch the paint. That's how you get your outside looks. And you see that, like, Dean Wade is going to get back into a rhythm. He hit a couple today. He's been sidelined with that ankle injury. We saw that Karis LeVert went bonkers the other night against Denver and really looked like himself on the catch shoots, encouraging DG and Donovan to get to the corners, get to the wings, and really get them up. And I love that the volume is still there with those two in particular. They are not afraid to take them. And then once you have teams aware that they're shooting out there, then that middle area is going to be wide open to start creating havoc. And it's just kind of read and react from there. That's modern day basketball. And, add Evan Mobley to the mix and you're in good shape.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at a couple of other just kind of quick hits from today's game, not tonight's game.
Got it now.
We got it now. Now the next time we do one of these, I'm gonna start saying today, and it's gonna be a night game. I'm gonna confuse everyone. So adaptability, just like the Cavs. Okay, moving on here. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, each scored 18 points. Jared Allen had 11 points. However, he was also kind of showing off some new different things in the paint there, maybe with that left hand. That was very cool, very encouraging to see. Just another example of how this team just keeps growing.
I'm going to give myself a little credit on that one, by the way.
Go for it.
No, because I asked him, I think it was a week ago or a week and a half ago, if Evan Mobley was a left-handed player. He's like, oh, yeah, for sure. I'm jealous of that. And since that point, ton of jump hooks with the left. He's got the awesome footwork in the post, but always going with his left hand. And I find that really intriguing that since that convo, he's been being more apt to using his left hand and going southpaw on guys. So keep an eye out on that too, because you got two bigs that are ambidextrous, then you got real problems in the paint.
Yeah. Jared Allen's thoughts while he's playing a game are, Spencer Davies said that I'm a left-handed shooter. Let's show him right now. That's awesome. But so he showed, even though, like I said, box score only shows 11 points, but, definitely kind of showing off some different things too. Donovan Mitchell at 8 rebounds. That's pretty cool. I mean, again, just going to show, I feel like maybe if you want to start nitpicking on some areas where this team could be maybe a little bit better, the rebounding from the guards, obviously Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, maybe undersized guards if we're talking about NBA status, but eight rebounds from him. The bench maybe didn't produce as much as they have in the past. Karis LeVert only had 7 points. Sam Merrill only had 6. Niang had 3. But again, when you have a guy like Mobley, I know we said we were done talking about him, but I guess we're not. When you have a guy like Evan Mobley, you can take over a game just like that. Then you don't necessarily need the bench. And they definitely were feeding Mobley, feeding the hot hand a lot more too. So not necessarily concerned about that. But any other kind of just final thoughts you made or observations that you made from tonight's game, today's game?
Just a little bit of sloppiness there in the second half. But I mean, that tends to happen. And I had some people in the mentions saying, like, they should never let games get close like this. I'm like, well, they're on the road. You're playing against a team who's undermanned, which means those are guys who are competing for their lives. They're looking for their next opportunities and trying to get into the coach's good graces. And also, just to be matter of fact, I think Charles Lee is a great head coach. I think he has this team in the grasp of what he wants to build there. And he's kind of establishing a culture there. I really like Brandon Miller. I think he's a huge part of this going forward, and ton of room for him to develop. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with a healthy squad. I think they've had some really fun games, and they're fast-paced, and they were pesky today. Like, you got to give them some credit too. It's not always just your team that's having problems. The reason that some of those problems come along is because of the efforts of the other squad. So just wanted to shout them out and not get too nitpicky on the Cavs here, because they ended up winning by 14. They knew it when it was winning time, and they went right back to Evan to really close it out and get a couple of dunks there down the stretch. But got a back-to-back going into South Beach tomorrow night. Looking forward to seeing how they respond to that. I'm sure that they'll be getting into Miami here shortly, as they took off from Charlotte this afternoon, and we'll see what happens to end that one. But quick note, I mean, after this back-to-back, I think they only have 3 games in the next week or 10 days or something like that. So a lot of time to rest and also some practice time for them that they haven't had.
Yeah, so just kind of going off that, kind of maybe a quick preview of their schedule. So, like you said, tomorrow, Miami at 6 p.m. Then you have a nice 4-day break based on the schedule right now. And then you have a Washington back at home Saturday, Sunday, both are Washington at home on Friday, the 13th. Scary game there. We have Saturday, Sunday off, and then they go to Brooklyn on Monday for a 7:30 game. And then after that, their next game isn't until the 20th of December. So yeah, 3 games, and it looks like maybe here, quick math, the next 10, 11, 12 days, like that's for as much as we have complained maybe a little bit about their schedule at the beginning of the season. They're definitely getting into a nice part of the schedule where they have some, time off where they can rest up, keep working and getting better. And yeah, we'll see where it goes into the new year after that.
Better than 17 games in 28 days, the way they started the season.
Yeah, man.
Like they actually can
exactly
exhale a little bit.
For sure.
But yeah,
for sure.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. Tommy, thanks so much for doing this with me here on this evening.
Yes.
Day game. But I appreciate you filling in. I know that Spence and the boys are kind of wrapped up with college football, and they've got the Browns going on tomorrow. So I appreciate the pinch hit today.
Absolutely.
Everybody that's watching this, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe this YouTube channel. Same with our social channels at Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff at Cavs on SI. We also have Courtside with Cavs on SI, our podcast. Please, that's on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. Subscribe, leave a rating, leave a comment. Be a part of the show. We want interaction. We want to answer your questions. We want you to feel involved. So go ahead and do that for the same for our YouTube channel and our social channels. Until tomorrow night after the Miami game, we are very appreciative of you joining us here today. And until then, we'll see you later.